welcome to The Storied Human. I'm Lynn Thompson, and today I'm going to bring you the story of Nicole Shaw. She owns the Curly Kurtosh bakery in Nutley, New Jersey. It's a boutique bakery featuring a Hungarian pastry most of us have never had the pleasure of eating because it's kind of labor intensive and goes against what we usually do here in America. But Nicole lived in Hungary for 4 years and got exposed to this pastry and just became obsessed with it and learned how to make it and decided to bring it to America. And she opened a catering business and then a brick and mortar bakery. Her vision is to spread happiness and awareness and enjoyment and have people eat something and still feel good after they eat it. So we had a great chat, and Nicole describes her goal as making the world a happier place. And I think it's about a lot more than the pastry. And I loved hearing her whole take on it. I got to meet Nicole because she was at a networking event with my niece Regina, and I interviewed Regina, who has the Tiny Kitchen Candle Company, and she was in episode 5 of The Storied Human, From Teacher to Entrepreneur, and we talked about how she also has this vision of bringing something beautiful to people, an experience. It's a lot more than selling candles. It's bringing this whole beautiful, almost spa wellness experience to people. And so now Nicole met Regina, and Regina's going to do a candle inspired by the Curly Kurtosh. So I just love this whole thing. I love this generation of entrepreneurs. I love talking to them and hearing about their vision. And I sure love talking to Nicole. So welcome with me, please, Nicole Shaw.
One of the big things I truly believe is that there's not a lot of transparency and honesty in society. And so everyone, like sometimes I'm like, this is so hard. And someone's like, you shouldn't tell people that, don't let them know how difficult it is. And I'm like, but why? Like, why? Like everyone's like, I make a great product. They're like, you should have a line out the door. No, I don't have a line out the door. I know a lot of businesses that do have a line out the door and 2 years later, they're closed. I'm not trying to get a line out the door. I'm trying to build a movement. I'm trying to build like a community. And to do that, you just don't have a line out the door. It takes businesses that are here 10 and 15 and 20 years later. They didn't necessarily start with a line out the door, but ultimately they got people to believe in their bigger vision and purpose. And that's what I want to do. So yes, you can drive past my shop and not see a line today, but I can tell you in a year or two, like you will see the people come. And those are people are diehard fans. So it's all about what people want to build. But I go completely against mainstream because I think a lot of us are indoctrinated with a lot of ideas from a young child. You need to look a certain way. You need to act a certain way. You need to have money, pretty. That's why the divorce rate is so high, right? Why is it, if the way we live our life is so great, why is the divorce rate so high? Why? Because people are focused on the wrong things when they look for life partners. And then you raise these children in these environments that are dysfunctional. Then you have these dysfunctional people. So I'm just like, if that's what you believe to be the truth, I believe on what I actually see. And my biggest goal is to be one of the happiest people on the face of the earth. And I've been around enough people to recognize what are the characteristics and the requirements to achieve that. And having lots of money and being famous is not one of them.
In fact, it's probably a recipe for disaster, right? My mother used to say the famous people are pretty miserable.
You see them committing, you see them in depression, talking about all these disorders, and then they're also committing suicide. And that has to be really serious. Right. So, I know exactly what the formula is, and that's what I follow. And it's the steady, slow that you have to, it's like the hare versus the rabbit.
Yeah. So how did you get like this? Because you're very practical and very realistic.
Well, I'm very fortunate to be raised in a family. Like my parents, my mom was born in a very small island in the Caribbean. And so it's 5,000 people and almost everyone knows each other and the other half are just all related. And so she always had this sense of caring for one another. And I learned that at a very young age. Like, you care for everyone. Like, everyone matters. You don't care where people come from. You don't care. She was never, and this is not the case for a lot of people. She didn't care about looks and, you know, who was wearing what or who had money. Like there's parents that really raise their children like, oh, this person looks cute and look at this. And they get that into their children's head at a very young age. We didn't do any of that. And so for me, it was just all about embracing everyone and having a good time. And then I just always, my mom's from the Caribbean, so I would travel a lot there. And I just love to travel. My father is huge into traveling. So then I got that piece from him. So then, like, when I was in college, I ended up living in Spain with a family. And I didn't speak English fluently. Like, I didn't speak Spanish fluently. I mean, I was probably intermediate, but I would hang out with them because I wanted to really learn the language. So I would hang out with them. I would meet some other people that really spoke Spanish. So then I got really, got a good glimpse in a different culture. Then I graduated college and I ended up working in internal audit, where I traveled to over 30 countries and would stay in those countries 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Wow. So we would really become connected with a lot of the people we worked with, because we were almost there 1 month with them in some cases, you know? And then I had to do a lot of work one-on-one for audit purposes with some of the people. So I learned a lot about the different cultures. You know, like, I learned so much about the Philippines, and Filipinos come here all the time. And I'm like, I'm half Filipino. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, half my employees are Filipino. You guys come all the time. And I worked there for like 3 weeks. So I'm completely like engaged with the community, and I really understand. And I think the cultures and different people. And then we moved to Hungary. And then I lived in Hungary for 4 years. My kids went to a British school. So I met tons of different cultures versus going to the American school, where you would go with Americans and then you would be with people who wanted to simulate with Americans, but when you go to
that's a different experience. Yeah.
You go to the British, everyone's like, I'm from this country. They're very proud of it. They stand out. They're not trying to like assimilate into the American culture. And I became really good friends with someone who was Turkish. So, and like, we went to Turkey and stayed with her for a week. My kids went to sailing camp in Turkey, so like, just the experiences that I've had, you just all in your eyes, just always constantly open. You're just
yes, I love that, because you're open, right? You've had all these experiences. The travel helps tremendously, connecting with people like that, but you're also very well-rounded. Like, all these different experiences, it makes you well-rounded. It makes you able to relate to lots of different people in lots of different situations.
Right. Thank you. I mean, so first of all, I traveled to over 30. I've traveled to I guess you would say I traveled to every continent. I guess not Antarctica, but beyond.
You got to put that on the list.
Yeah, but beyond that, I've been to every continent. Like, I went to Africa, stayed there with a month with my, with my best friend. And then like the Spanish, I had a stint in Costa Rica, then I was in Spain. So like, anybody can walk in here. And then I used to travel. Obviously, everyone travels to Western Europe. And then I lived in Central Europe, and I traveled to Eastern Europe. And then I've been to the Middle East, and I've been to Australia. So anybody can come in here and I can find something to connect on.
That's so cool. I know it would be hard to be in a business and not be an open person, open-minded. I just don't, how do you make that work? Right? Because lots of people, you're dealing with all kinds of people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of people are open-minded though.
Well, not like you.
I just think a lot of people, I just believe that we were truly indoctrinated at a very young age to have some fundamental beliefs. And I think as I get older, I see that they're not true. I mean, I see with my own eyes. Like, if you travel, you see that the things that you're told are not true. And I think one of the big things for me is I got really, really sick with my health. And when I began to dig deeper into like, why am I this sick? I began to realize it's the food and the lifestyle. And I then see how that's communicated through society. And it's really bad. And I think from that, I just feel like I have to be the change that I want to see. And the change that I want to see involves educating people, and it involves making people feel great, because everything out there is making people feel bad. Marketing, I was told, was to make people feel undesirable about their current situation, to encourage them to purchase what you have to offer.
Fear sells. Yes, fear. It's all about fear. You don't smell right, you don't look great, your teeth aren't white enough. Right. If you're not fearful, it doesn't work. The advertising doesn't work. Yeah. It's so weird that we're talking about this, because I have an episode on this book called Love is Letting Go of Fear. And it's by Dr. Gerald Jablonski. I read it like a million years ago, and it came back to me recently and reread it. And it's literally so simple, but so good. You can't feel love and fear at the same time. You always have to choose one. So if someone comes at you accusing you or angry, they're really fearful underneath it all, right?
Right.
And you can choose to be fearful back, or you can take a moment and be loving back and just say, this person's is having a hard day. This person's going through some tough times. And that just changed my whole mindset about, we have to try to be loving. It's such a basic, simple thing, but the more I did it, the better my life got. The more I did it, you can literally change a transaction with someone.
I mean,
but you're right on about marketing. It's like, it's scary. They rely on you being afraid and not feeling good about yourself.
I mean, first of all, life is so simple. Like, it's so simple, but it's made to be so complicated to have people completely confused.
Yeah.
And I used to say, there's so many miserable people out there. So that's why I created this business, because even though I sell kurtosh, I'm really in the business of spreading happiness. And so people come in here, we embrace them, we welcome everybody. I don't care like what your story is. I look at the character for the person who they are. But when you really dig deeper, I was like, people are not miserable. People are actually hurting.
Right. That's a big difference. Yeah.
People are suffering from some sort of trauma, which 9 times out of 10 came out of childhood, whether it be their parents didn't treat them right, whether it be the kids at school treated them wrong, or whether it be that they were just teens and society put all this pressure on them to be this or look this or act that. And from that experience, they've carried it with them. Then what you give is what you get. And so as a result, they get all that negative energy. So then they just become an overall negative person. I've had a handful. I mean, we attract a certain group of people, but I've had people come in here very like, oh no, we're just looking. They're not interested. They just want to kind of see what's going on. They don't want to chat. And by the time like I chat with them and I introduce, like they're like hanging out, smiling. I had someone who had like some anxiety, and she just came in and she was like, we're just looking. And it's 3 of them. They're just walking around. They're not really talking. And then eventually I started asking them some questions, and she just opened up, and she was just like, I'm so happy no one's here. And I'm like, well, why are you happy no one's here? Like, I like for people to be here. She's like, I suffer from anxiety. And I was like, oh, don't worry. She's like, no, we can't talk about it. And then she like kind of clamped up. But by the end, she sat down. There were some people in here. She didn't leave. And then she came over to me and she was like, thank you so much. Like people just want to feel that someone cares about them.
It's pretty simple. Yep. We have to love each other and take care of each other. Yes. But we forget that, or we're afraid to remember that, or we're conditioned by our family. Yeah.
Some people are not trained. Some people are taught that everyone's out to get you. And so you need to protect yourself, because who's trying to take something from you?
I would say, like, I live in New Jersey and you live in New Jersey, right? I would say North Jersey's really like that. It's just more like, it's more big time, more people live closer together. There's a lot more towns, a lot more stuff happening. And I have definitely seen when people move here, because we're more rural, central, but rural New Jersey, I've seen here people come here with a different attitude. And we have to say, like, look, chill out. Like, people are good. We're not trying to like get anything from, not that everybody here is great. We're not, but there's that stress, in certain like populated areas where people just think, I'm going to get mine.
And I've done events in Bergen County, Essex County, and Union County. So I was always just a Bergen County. Like, I never really went into the other counties for much. And I could tell you there's a complete difference in the different
You
counties.
can feel it.
Hands down. I'm just like, I don't like, I kind of know what it is, but you know, you need to do a little bit more research before you start making some claims.
Yeah, right. I don't want to say too much, right? But you should come out to Hunterdon County and tell me what you think.
Yeah, it's a very different environment when you go to these different counties.
I remember getting lost on the way to some mall like years ago, and I pulled off the highway, and instantly I felt, because I'm really sensitive to whatever, and I felt this tension, like this instant tension, and I said, "Oh, I forgot what it's like to be in a city." Like I went to school in New Brunswick. It's like a whole different feeling. You have to have your blinders up. You have to be protective of yourself. But there's also that tension that people learn to live with.
Very unhealthy. It's very
bad for you.
Like, even when you go into the city, I'm like, whoa. Like as soon as I drive into the city, the traffic, the cars, the people walking, honking, people like going, cutting in front of you. I'm like, this is really intense.
Yeah, it is. And if you live with it all the time, it's bad for your health. Definitely.
It's so bad. And people don't, your body talks to you. So when you need all these medicines, you're going to the doctor, you're sick, your blood pressure is high, your body is talking to you. I got really sick in my late 20s. And it wasn't until I got sick that I had to look and be like, what's going on? And then I began to listen to my body and really understand how the body operates. I was on 4 hypertension medicines in my late 20s. And the doctor, and I wasn't like, I didn't have any like physical attributes that someone would be like, yeah, we could understand. Doctors could understand. They labeled it as it's hereditary. That's just what happens. And I said, this can't be the case. I was like, there's no. And it's
you were so young, right? That's crazy.
Right. And then it's when I began to look at my diet and my lifestyle that I began to realize this is not right. And then if you take me, that was 27, almost 20 years later, I am literally off of all the medicines. My numbers are phenomenal. And I would have been off the medicine earlier if I had known that I should have been being weaned off of it. And that's another thing, like the whole medical profession. Like it's very, very, it's not easy. It's complex. But I should have never been on medicine till this point. And I had to figure it out on my own. And now I have actively worked with a doctor to be weaned off of the last 10 milligrams that I've been taking for the last 5 years that I did not need. That's
so good. That's really good. But we're not taught those things. You're right. And we're not taught to look like, some doctors are cool. We're getting more doctors that are more holistic, more osteopathic doctors, where they'll actually look at your situation, or they'll ask you, do you exercise, or is there stress at work, or they really do try to look at the whole person. But when I was young, it was just take this pill, And
there's so many people sitting on medicine. Yes, some people are not trained or have the willpower or the interest to try to get off the medicine, because it definitely, like, I had to completely cleanse my palate. I ate sugar like it was like water. Like I would just eat like bags of Skittles. I would eat drink juice. Like I literally would like use sugar. I was probably addicted to it. And then it's once I took that out my palate, like everything just completely changed. But no one's educating people to that extent. And well, it's addictive, so that if you can get people addicted to something, that they'll buy almost subconsciously, and then you just have a complete revenue stream in eternity. But just to kind of let people know, do you want to explain what I do for?
I would love to explain what you do, because your story is wild. I love it.
So I am the owner of Curly Kurtosh, and it is a boutique. It's an experiential boutique bakery located in Nutley, New Jersey. We specialize in Hungarian kurtosh, which is also known as chimney cakes. It's a popular street food. It's a cross between a hollow churro and a donut. It's baked on what looks like a rolling pin, a sweet dough, and we bake it in a rotisserie oven, and then we customize it. I lived in Hungary for 4 years. I was completely fascinated by this street food, particularly because I've lived in Spain, traveled to over 30 countries for my job, and I'm from the New York City area. So I truly believed at some point I should have heard about this or actually tasted one, and never in my life had I had that experience. And then when I was in Hungary, not only was it really good, there's a whole culture behind it, and it symbolizes like the essence of joy and happiness. So I can't eat sweets in the United States because they're overly sweet and highly processed. Ate these without any problems whatsoever. And this was my sweet treat. And I realized when I was going to leave, I'm going to be leaving soon. What's going to be planned? Like, what am I going to do? Like, where's my sweet treat? And that's when I decided to bring it back to the United States. It's obvious that no one knows about them here because it's very hard to make it a business. So I did the research to understand why. Because my background is business. I am a former CPA. I studied accounting. I was a financial analyst. I went to business school, and then I graduated business school and went into marketing. And I worked on really large global brands like Airwick and Lysol. So I really completely understand the business side. So I said, we're going to bring this to the United States, but I'm going to bring it in a way that makes it a sustainable business. And that's why we make it an experience. So people come in, we really touch upon Hungary. You really see the process. And I use 100% the purest ingredients in the world. I work with a spice purveyor out of New York City. Our flour is getting sourced from Europe. We use a French style butter. So we really try to make it cover every facet, from like the taste, from the when you walk into the shop, the experience, and then really just this whole intangible sense of discovery that people truly enjoy when they learn about something new. And so I present it in a way that no other food is truly presented. And I layer it with, just having different items, but they're the best of the best, because I want to make sure that people are enjoying something that their body recognizes. I recognize that a lot of the food we eat in the US is processed and overly sweetened. And I think it should be a place that parents and kids both alike can go and truly enjoy.
I love that whole concept. And you reminded me of something my friend Christina told me when she was traveling a couple of years ago. They have, her husband has relatives in Switzerland, and she said she has trouble eating bread here, right? But in Switzerland, she said, and Italy, she ate bread the whole time and it was fine. So there's something that we're doing here that they're not doing there.
Yes. So I did a little bit of research to understand why, because I have that same thing. Our flour is coming from Europe, and people who are non-celiac, gluten sensitive are able to eat these pastries without any issues. So my first question is why? Yeah. So after doing some research, I found out that the wheat that's coming from Europe, particularly mine, is a traditional wheat going through the traditional milling process, and it doesn't go through the crossbreeding and hybridization like the wheat in the United States. So if you were to take a step back, you would actually see that if that is truly the case and people who are gluten sensitive could eat my pastry, they're actually not allergic to the gluten, they're allergic to the processing.
Yeah.
They're having
powerful. Yeah.
The processing. And so I have to notify everyone that it has glutens, but I share with people that this is there are people who are gluten sensitive, non-celiac, gluten sensitive, and can eat these without any issue. And then they have to make the decision for themselves, and they taste it and they sample it see if they have any reaction, and they don't have reactions.
It's kind of powerful. And I don't know how we got down that road in this country, but it's not good what we're doing with wheat and other hybrid, overly processed grains and food. It's just not good for human bodies.
No, it's not. I like to say, when you eat here, your body recognizes what you're eating. The reality is, if you walk into the store, most of the food are in boxes, and you can eat them for weeks and months later, which means we're actually consuming edible items, not food. And your body actually needs food with the nutrients, not edible items, for you to just kind of sustain. And
so it's a lot more than a pastry shop. You're offering a lot more than just this wonderful thing you found in Hungary. I love that. You're offering something you feel good about and something that people can tolerate, and it's not bad for them.
Right. And then they leave just feeling good overall because, I work with staff. I select staff that embody and embody this whole sense of joy and happiness. And they believe in my vision.
Yeah. So that's also common among entrepreneurs who do really well and feel really good about what they do, is that they're offering something unique. They're offering an experience and something they really believe in. And it comes from a deeper part of them. You know, they're not just selling things, like you said before, we were talking before. It's much deeper than that, you know, and you're very connected to what you're doing. And it all started when you ate street food in Hungary. I just love that. What a story.
Yeah, I mean, we've even trademarked the word dessertainment, because the business really started off by doing catering. Because the reality is no one knows what this is. If you open up a shop, is it the right location? No one's going to come. And then you're just going to close down. So I said, let's do the pop-up. Let's do the catering. Let's go out to these different places and see what the traction is. Within the first year, Bank of America actually selected me as a 2019 Businesswoman Spotlight feature. So I was on their website for 1 year. Then I started partnering with Bloomingdale's, Williams-Sonoma, Lord & Taylor. I would pop up in those shops, and then people would see Curly Kurtosh, and then they would hire us for events. And so that's where we trademarked the word dessertainment, because we're half dessert, half entertainment. Because when you go to most parties, you chat with people, and then it's kind of like, that's it. But when we show up, there's like, what is going on? Because you're baking right there, and then you taste it. It tastes like a French bakery shop, like right before your eyes. We set up, and then we just pack up and we disappear. So we did it as catering, and then catering pretty much stopped right after. We had just finished going to Citigroup Global Headquarters, and then COVID hit. And so we ended up going into a storefront to test the location, because we said, there's no catering. Let's see what happens if we set up a shop. We ended up on Channel 7 News. People started coming. So I said, okay, I know that people will come. I just need to make sure I deliver something that people are willing to come for, package it in a way. And then that's how we ended up in opening up the shop. And then just last week, we were at Google catering for them at their office.
That is so cool. How did that go?
Oh, it went fantastic. They loved it. They actually want us to come on a regular basis at some point.
I love that. That really says it all, that somebody that big wants you to come back on a regular basis. There's an excitement there, and you have something very unique.
Yeah, and what's nice about it, we can always change it up. So we can change the flavors with ice cream. We can make it savory. Like for Memorial Day weekend, if all goes as planned, I plan to actually get little pipettes where you put like, you can, when people have the cupcakes and they have the little droppers that have alcohol in them. I'm partnering. I love to partner. And I love to partner with other small businesses. We're going to fill the pipettes with this artisanal salted caramel whiskey. It's like one of its kind. And we're going to use that to put on the ice cream. And we're going to use a Memorial Day flavored cone, colored cone. So we're always coming up with like, I just sit here and think of new ideas and hear what my, my guests tell me. And I just create things, because it's fun. It's fun to do new things that are good, and you can feel good after you eat them.
Yes. So tell me about the embassy gig. I was pretty impressed with that. How did that come about?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So to me, yes, I did. I baked for the Hungarian Embassy 2 years. I was invited to bake for them 2 years in a row before COVID, and before I had the shop. And I think that embodied my fundamental belief that you need to be kind to everyone. When I was in Hungary, I had just moved there. I went to a school meeting, and someone was like, I need boxes. And I was just like, I have tons of boxes. I just moved here. Come get every last one if you want. Like, why break them down, throw them away if they can be repurposed? I'm huge into repurposing. I mean, like, massive into repurposing. So I was like, come on over. So she's like, great. She got all my boxes. She's like, thank you so much. She's like, I'm going to show you how to make palacintas, which are Hungarian crepes. And we just became friendly over the next 4 years. Well, you fast forward, I was moving back to the United States, and her husband was appointed as the ambassador of the Hungarian Embassy in D.C. So to the United States. And so she knew that I was working on this business to make the kurtosh kalach. And then when she got here, she said every year the embassy has an event where they open up their doors to the general public. And she said the Czech Republic was making the kurtosh. And she was just like, but that's Hungarian. Like, we should have that at our, why, how do we never have that? She was like, I would love to sample your product and, you know, let's taste it and then maybe you can come. She sampled it. She loved it. And that's how it happened. But it just shows you, like, if you treat everyone, what you give is what you get.
I love that.
You know, I created this relationship. 4 years later, we were still friendly because it all was based on that one thing that I did for her that cost me literally nothing. And I was just so happy to be of service to someone that it ended up, you know, in that. And that's even how I got Google. Google, I posted, and Google, the individual who invited me, his wife had been following me. And she was just like, I've been watching you forever. And she was like, I hope that this lives up to my expectations because I'm super excited. And I was like, no problem. And I just was chatting with her because I treat everyone in my shop the same. I don't care if you're like some executive. I don't care if you're just someone who's, you know, has a more simpler job. I don't care who you are, where you're from, how you look, as long as you're respectful and you are going to, you know, be caring to everyone else around you, I'm going to embrace you. Chatted with her. Her husband was like, oh my God, I would love to bring this into my company, but it's not healthy because it's sweet. And I was like, it's not healthy. I was like, well, let's define what healthy is.
Yeah, really.
I mean, like, first of all, you have to eat sweets, number one. And number two, if you're eating sweets that are loaded with low fat, sugar alternatives, like, your body doesn't even recognize those things.
Exactly.
So yes, they're low in sugar, but you're consuming something that your body like literally cannot process. And I said, but this is like grandma's baking. And in 7.5 cups of flour is 4 tablespoons of sugar. So I was just like, how is this not healthy? Every ingredient that I use is a pure. It is coming from the source. So like our raspberry, it's a dehydrated crushed raspberry, and we add some sugar. Most fruit items that you eat are flavorings. They're not the actual true fruit.
They're not even the real fruit, right?
So it's just the flavoring of the fruit. So I was just like, how, you know, is that not healthy? And then he was just like, I'm sold.
It's like people don't realize, right? Yeah, you explained it.
Right.
So now we're talking about this and I'm looking at that picture behind you and I've looked at the video, how you make it, but people are going to want to know more about, can you describe what it's like describe what we're talking about?
Yeah. So I was saying before that you roll it on what looks like a rolling pin, and then we allow it to rise. So it has really, like, I guess you could say 3 rising periods. First, you actually make it, then it needs to rise. Then you, once it does that, then you put it onto a spit, because it's a yeast-based dough, and we use a refrigerated cake yeast. Like, I learned in Hungary on the streets with the locals, and I learned from someone who received the Mastercraft Award for making one of the best in the country.
And so you said it was over charcoal. I read in one of your interviews, it was over charcoal fires on the street.
Exactly. So in Hungary, they're doing it over charcoal. In the United States, we do it on an infrared burner. So we just do it on like toaster type ovens. And so you roll the dough onto the spit, then you allow it to rise. So that's the second rise after it's risen once. And then you bake it into the oven. And in the last bake, it's going to rise one more time, right? Because the yeast is beginning to grow with the heat. And then when it comes out the oven, we coat it. And this is where it gets really fun, because you can sprinkle any type of flavor on there. So you can do the cinnamon, you can do our raspberry. We also do an edible glitter, which is a high, it's not sprinkles. Sprinkles is a waxy sugar inside of a waxy coating shell. This is just like a higher end sugar, and it's crunchy. And so again, it goes back. It's not overly sweet because it's not fake. It's just crunchy. And then you can do a lot of different toppings. The Hungarians typically like the walnuts. They like the coconut flakes. Because we work with a spice purveyor, our coconut flakes are coming from Southeast Asia, and they're maintained in the fridge, not sitting on the shelf. Our walnuts are freshly harvested from California, and we keep those in the fridge as well. Whereas most of the things that you see sitting on the shelves, they're really stale. Like they've been treated, and then they can just sit there for eternity. And then we also do Oreo, because that's America's favorite cookie. And then we
It sounds amazing.
and then we make it in the shape of ice cream cones. I mean, the options are endless. Eventually, we're gonna make them into little Cinnabons, like cardamom buns.
Yeah.
I learned about how to make that from a Swedish baker. So the ends are the options are endless. We're going to make them savory and fill them with savory items.
Oh, great idea. You know, my stepson is Hungarian, and I said, did you eat these when you went over there? And he goes, oh, yeah, they're the best.
Yes,
I told him I was going to be interviewing you. So there's a lot of excitement about it when people understand how special it is, and just excitement because they've never had it before. And you're bringing something, like you said, something that's healthy in that old fashioned way, like something that your grandma could have made if she was Hungarian. Yes.
Yes. Yes, it's absolutely. The Hungarians are actually astonished at how, like, they're like, these are really, really good.
Oh, I love that.
They come in, they buy like one or two, and they're like, we're fine. They sit down to eat it. They're like, we need more.
It's an experience. Yeah, I think you convert people definitely when they come in your shop. So can people order them online too? Is that?
Yes. So I do this. I do this because I love it. I don't do it to create the next Dunkin' Donuts. A lot of businessmen hate to talk to me because they're like, or businessmen or women, but it's primarily men that say this. But they're like, you can open up another location, you can franchise this, you can do this, you can do that. I mean, the reason why I created this is because there are so many franchises, and the franchises are not producing top-notch quality. I mean, I'm yet to have someone show me a franchise that is like creating like grandma's baking, you know? They may have a few locations, but they're not a franchise with like hundreds and hundreds of locations. The reason why I created this is because I can't find anything that truly produces great food. So I was once told, like, you know, you tend to go to higher end bakeries, but even some of those are questionable. My palate is very sensitive, so I can eat something from anywhere, but I can tell you immediately if it has processed ingredients. Yeah. And some of these higher end bakeries are cutting corners. Like I was told one guy, it's a French bakery. They make these cheesecakes, but what they do is they serve cheesecakes. And what they do is they get the cheesecake from Costco, but they put a really nice chocolate, really nice fruits on top. And they say Americans can't tell.
My gosh.
You know, but for someone like myself, who's very sensitive to all those ingredients that would be in a Costco cheesecake, I can tell you right away, I'm like, I can feel this. This is not right. And so I just don't eat a lot of this food just because I start feeling funny. And if we all paid a close attention, if we cleansed our palate and paid really close attention to when we have these like bloatings or headaches, you'll realize, or you get sleepy, you'll realize it's tied to the food that you're eating.
And I've been starting to connect to, you can connect that if you take your time. You know what else you're reminding me of? I had a German great grandma. And she used to bake like, oh my gosh, I miss it so much. And I would bake with her. We come from like a baking family. And you're reminding me of how fresh all that stuff was. Like you had to eat it right away, right? There were no preservatives. And I remember my mother being so sad when she lost her grandma. And she said, oh, we never got the recipe for, one of the things she made was cherry custard pie. And my mother said, but I guess it doesn't matter because we don't have a cherry tree. You know, she got the cherries from a cherry tree. She goes, she used lard in the crust, so we don't have that. And she said, and we don't have fresh milk from the farmer down the street, so we couldn't recreate it if we tried.
Right. It's all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that's why we're very selective on who we reach out to, because it's not for everyone. It takes a lot of resources and money to deliver a product like this. And so it's really for people who love this sense of discovery and who could even tell. Like there's some people who are just like, I don't know what the big deal is. But people who eat this type of food can tell, like, this is really curated ingredients. Like even from the ice cream, we work with a small ice cream shop in Hillsdale who makes small batch ice cream. And the ice cream pairs so amazingly with our pastry because it's really curated.
There is a difference, and it's wonderful when people can tell, and your body can tell, as you pointed out. So can they order online if people go to your website? Yes.
So you can order online, but we do not ship. That is the big question. Do you ship? Makes sense. We do not ship because It really should be eaten the same day. I will turn away business if people are like, I'm going to deliver it 4 or 5 days later. I'm just like, this is not that type of thing.
Right.
And so yeah, that's kind of you can order it. We have delivery. It has to be within a certain radius from Nutley, and we like essentially borrow the DoorDash driver. So you order through my website, and DoorDash will deliver it to you.
So that works. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come to Nutley. I know I do.
How far is the drive for you?
I think it's like an hour and a little bit. Not that far.
Oh, that's like a field trip. But some people make this as a field trip. You know, they get in there. I just had like Hungarians. I came from Brooklyn. So I came like an hour and a half as well. Unfortunately, the kurtosh, we're making those more to order because Americans are ordering the cones, the ice cream cones.
Oh, they like the cone shape.
Yeah, so we just make those in abundance because that's what everyone's really getting. It's hot out, so it goes nice with the pastry, the ice cream.
It does sound amazing though with that really high quality ice cream. So I love what you're doing, and I love that you're very sure about what you're doing. That's what I really love. It's like, I have this idea. I'm going this place. I don't need to, franchise or go crazy or have a line out my door. I'm focused on the quality. You're following your truth.
Right.
And I do love that. The reason I'm doing a podcast is I was in this amazing podcasting class with this amazing podcaster. Her name is Kathy Heller, and she's super successful. She interviews like everybody famous that you can think of. But what she talks about is it's not about your numbers. It's not about growing this huge audience, although she has that now, but that's never what it was about in the beginning. It was about growing the right people, hitting the quality. And I'm like that too. I'm just enjoying myself. I like to learn from people. I like to give people a spotlight. And I think you have the right idea. You have integrity. You have integrity about how you're doing it. So yeah, I'm really hungry now.
Well, unfortunately, you're too far to get a kurtosh, and we're not open today.
But that's okay. I'll make the drive.
How far are you from Mountainside?
About 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
Because that's where I'm going today, but you're still far. We're doing a top.
Well, today. We're far from everything, but that's okay. All right. So I'd love to put that video on the show notes, like when I upload the episode, so people can see how the dough is, wound around the
spit,
the dowel. Yeah, it's so cool.
The dowel, the dowel.
It's not just that it tastes wonderful. It's like the way I love that you are showing people this is like a thing, like it's 3 times we have to rise it, and it's like a production. And I think people love that, and again, you're reminding me of my great grandma, because she would sit there and roll out the dough with me and make the apple tart, probably the way they've made it for hundreds of years. Yeah, it's a great thing to restore that quality and that respect.
Yes, we call it feel-good indulgence because you're guaranteed to eat it and not feel yucky. Like, I don't even know if anyone who's ever eaten it and been like, oh, because the portion size is correct. The items, like we don't put cupcakes on it and cotton candy and Twizzlers and Kit Kats and popcorn and everything else you can find.
Yeah. Because the original thing is good. So you don't have to load it up with all that yucky stuff.
Yes. So probably coming maybe at the end of the summer, I'm going to do a big push on our curly classic, which is the traditional Hungarian version, which doesn't have anything on it. Americans automatically need to put cinnamon and Oreo and edible glitter and everything on it. And I want to bring to light the pure plain one and show people you don't even need to do all of that, and you could really, really enjoy it.
You'd still love it. Yeah.
Still love it. Like, I think we just have this idea that everything needs to be coated and filled and dipped and this and that. And it's just like, no, it doesn't have to be that way.
We do overdo. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to. And then the people who buy it now are all diabetics. Like, only people who are diabetics, like, because I don't have no other option. But I think it could be for everyone. So I have a lot of stuff planned. And then we're going to have a candle made by your cousin.
My niece. Yeah.
Regina. So I'm super excited by that.
I love that. I do love the way you all support each other, the women entrepreneurs. It's just excellent. And I love her product. Yeah, I just ordered some Meadowlark. I ordered 3 Meadowlarks.
I know the funny thing is I'm not into candles, but I was just like, I like her story. I like good quality. And I think a candle would be like beautiful. Like what she does is amazing. And the wick crackles. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go like bananas on that.
Well, you remind me of each other. You like people to have an experience.
Yes.
Not just buy a thing, but have an experience.
And I believe that there's a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. And one of the things he always says is there's 2 ways in which you can build the biggest business. He's just like, you can actually just build a business, and do what you're supposed to do and grind, and you'll grow big because you put in the hard work and you dedicated your life to the purpose. Or you can crush all the other businesses around you and then you'll be the biggest. And so I believe on the first option, where if we all grow together, we can all grow big. And obviously whoever works the hardest and, is able to capitalize on the different opportunities that are put in front of them, they're able to grow the biggest. But the idea is we all should grow together. And if we all grow together, then you create a community of all happy people. And then it helps me get to being one of the happiest people on the face of the earth. Because if we have a community of happy people, you can only be happy.
Yeah. And you can sleep at night. I wonder how some of these people who sell this stuff that really isn't good for people, how they sleep at night, Well, I love talking to you. Is there anything else you would like to share with us about maybe a bit of wisdom that you've picked up through this whole journey?
Yes, I truly believe that people should be kind to everyone and follow one simple rule, and that would be to treat people the way you want to be treated. And if you do that, you will see that you will get double the returns, because people just want to everyone wants to be treated well, even the people who treat people bad.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's so true.
So you can only win if you treat people well. And just think of every time I do something, I'm like, if I was in their shoes, how would I want to be treated? Like the other day, the FedEx guy, he parked in front of the driveway for me to get in. And I was just like, I know for a fact that he would hate to be me trying to get into the parking lot and I can't get in because the FedEx guy is disappeared. I know he would be angry. I know for a fact he would be angry.
Yes.
So I went to him and I was just like, and I was probably a little bit snarky, but I find it like completely insane that there's an opening for him to actually park where he wouldn't have had to block the parking lot. So then I was just like, you thought that was a good idea? It was a bit snarky, but it was just like, the only thing you should really say is, you know what? She's snarky, but she's right? Like I should not be parking a big FedEx truck in front of the parking spot because I know for a fact he would be upset if that happened to him. Right? Like you're trying to go home, you're trying to get in, and you have a big FedEx truck, and there is no one parked anywhere else, and there's an opening for him to access all the doors further down the street, but he parks in front of the parking lot. He got mad at me. And I was just like, how do you get mad? You're the one parking in front of the parking lot, And so for me, I would have never even parked there because the first thing I would have thought is, and it wasn't like a 2-second drop off. He had to walk down the corridor and come back. But and yes, he probably thought no one was going to show up in time. But I would never do that because my first thing is if I cover the parking, if I prevent people from accessing the parking lot and I was the one trying to get in, I'd be angry.
Yeah, definitely. If you have that focus, it really helps you get through things and not be overly snarky. Yeah.
Just focus. I just thought it was like your job is a driver. Your job is to like be a non-inconvenience to the people around you as a driver.
It's true.
Of a truck, a big truck, But that's I just want everyone to, as they navigate life, just every time you do something, think of yourself as being on the other end and how would you want to be treated, and life becomes a breeze.
That does work. The golden rule.
Yes, that is my massive I treat my work employees really good. Like the back of my shop is really nicely, the furniture I put back in there or like the equipment, Like I don't have iron shelves in the back with the ideas in the front. It needs to look pretty. In the back is just where we work. But I'm like, I want to work where it's nice.
Yeah.
Like I want to work where it looks good. So I really took the time to make sure the front and the back are desirable. So that's my just treat people the way you want to be treated. It will come back tenfold. You'll be happy. The people around you will be happy, and it'll equal a recipe of being one of the happiest people around.
I love that. It is. It's almost magical when you start living that way.
Yes, it is.
And I feel that about you. So I can't thank you enough for coming on. As usual,
my pleasure.
You entrepreneurs are so much more than your business. You just have this whole approach, the kind of people that do a business with integrity. It's just so cool to find out who you are. So impressed with this woman. Not only does she learn an age-old method of making a pastry in a foreign country and bring it back to this country, but she opens a business that she fills with her ideas of how the world should be, which is, treat people fairly, be open to different kinds of people, make them feel welcome, give them an experience, source your materials so that what you're feeding people are pure. It was just a delight to hear the details about this wonderful woman and her business. And I wish we all could have a kurtosh right now, but we have to go to Nutley, New Jersey if we want one. But that's okay, because that's the way it should be. It should be fresh and real, like Nicole is. So I want to thank Nicole so much for sharing herself and her story. And until next time, the Storied Human says goodbye.